2012. A normal day at Sandy Hook Elementary. A one deranged man had just finished killing his mother, who was a teacher at that school. The shooter's name was Adam Lonzo. He entered the school with an assault rifle and 2 pistols. His victims were 20 first-grade students learning a lesson that morning. They all died along with 6 employees that were trying to stop this tragedy. When the police showed up, Adam Lonzo turned the gun on himself. The shooting was over, but there were still children whose joyous laughter would never be heard again. Keep in mind, this was close to Christmas. Imagine walking through those hallways with all the What I Want for Christmas, the Dear Santas, and all of those other Christmas projects that parents and surviving employees would have to remind them of the lives that were cut too short. To think that one man was able to do this much pain and suffering to families and friends and saw such little futile opposition as he wrecked the lives of so many. This was a horrible event, and something needs to be done because the police officers cannot be everywhere at once. This is not the first shooting that has happened, and sadly, it won't be the last. From the religious standpoint, in Romans 1:18-32, Paul talks about how if we separate ourselves from God, we will continue to do more and more evil, and there will be more and more violence as well. We can see the truth of what Paul says in our own country. In 1962, the Engel v. Vitale case removed prayer from schools, and the Abington Township School District versus Skim removed the Bible from schools in 1963. And shortly after, on August 1st, 1966, the first mass shooting was recorded at the University of Texas. Since the beginning of our nation, God has been at the core of our schools until these cases took them away from our children. And soon after, there was a mass shooting. Since then, abortion has been legalized. In some states, gay marriage has been legalized. So it is safe to say that Paul was correct in saying that if God is not at the core, evil will only thrive. Indeed, since the year 2000, active shooting events have more than tripled, according to the FBI. This includes business, military bases, religious establishments, as well as schools. Schools, however, are the second most attacked area, accounting for 29% of active shootings. Shootings at business places like movie theaters, retail stores, office buildings, and warehouse factories account for 40% of cases. But why then are we so concerned with the number of school shootings when they account for only 29% of active shootings? As of 2011, there were only 132,183 schools in the United States. That is including public, private, and chartered school institutions. However, according to the National Census Bureau, that same year there were 7.3 million total establishments in the United States. This means that 29% of all active shootings took place in less than 2% of the total establishments in the United States. It is time for a change. We the people have an obligation to protect our children and significantly heighten our security measures at our children's schools in order to prevent tragedies like the Sandy Hook school shooting from ever occurring again. What I mean by significant measures includes controversial measures and non-controversial measures. These include, but not limited to, armed guards, in certain cases, armed staff, as well as metal detectors. The best way we can protect our children is by learning from Pope Gregory. When invading forces came to attack, he decided he could turn to his own cheek, but not the cheek of his neighbor. Jesus said in Matthew 7:12, "Do to others what you would have them do to you." So Pope Gregory raised a force to stop the invaders, and it turns out they never attacked at all. Likewise, our government needs to stop playing this political power struggle and fix the need of protection of the children at schools by having a force of guards or policemen or even armed teachers, if necessary, to stop these ill-minded killers from destroying the lives of innocent people and children. The system that might prove most effective for public schools would be having metal detectors just inside the east entrance with a police officer or similarly trained equipped guard standing by. This, in theory, would stop or at least slow a shooter down and give time for officers or guards to come and assist, if necessary, to stop the shooter. Schools designed similar to that of Annapolis Christian Academy with passcode locks and single hallways could add private armed guards who have training similar to police officers. They would be stationed at an end of the hallway to see and assess who walks in to determine whether or not that person is a threat. Being inside, the guards would be safe from getting sniped at from a distance as the persons entering would be in constant view. A safety precaution will help keep students Safety shooters are accidental shots from the guards. Hitting them is an alarm lever that would be by each guard station. These alarms would be distinct from other alarms, so when activated, students would know to enter the nearest classroom in the event of a passing period or lock the doors if class is started, and students and teachers would move to the farthest side of the room from the door. This would either eliminate or reduce drastically the potential victims of accidental shooting or being shot by the shooter. And this would also allow the shooter to have more likelihood of seeing that he is not the only one with the firearm and thus discouraging them from firing at all. But what should the guards and policemen carry? What I'm about to say is not to be morbid, but practical details of the functionality of each firearm in a defense atmosphere. Should this be assault rifles, shotguns, or just regular sidearms? Shotguns have two types of bullets, slugs and scatter shot. Slugs are massive, heavy projectiles that will have next to no problem passing through multiple barriers, which you do not want to do in a populated area, because it will be likely that something, or much worse, someone further down the path of the projectile will be hit. Scatter shot does not have the penetration issue of a slug, but it does have the issue of having very many small projectiles moving in a spreading pattern. This instance is even worse than slugs, because even if you hit your target, there is a good chance that some of the projectiles missed your target and are speeding in multiple directions. Also, scattered shots tend to slow down rapidly, so if it was over a significant distance, it might not actually stop or kill the perpetrator. For these reasons, shotguns are ill-suited for the stopping of school shootings. What about assault rifles? I would recommend them for use in schools and hallways longer than 50 feet. I say this because an assault rifle is much more accurate than a pistol and has much more range as well. The reason it is so much more accurate is because, for one, the bullet travels a lot faster than a pistol, and two, because it is longer so the guard can hold it with both hands and press it against his shoulder. The downfall of an assault rifle is that the bullets are smaller and extremely fast, meaning it will go through multiple targets. But there are a round called ballistic rounds made for the assault rifle. These rounds rapidly expand upon initial impact of the first object it penetrates. This is desirable because it means that it will slow down much faster and not continue its path near as far as traditional rounds. Recognizing that some schools, including our own, are quite small, the sidearm is the best option for a smaller school having hallways no longer than 50 feet. They are smaller so they don't intimidate people. They also make ballistic rounds for pistols, and pistols, being slower than assault rifles, but still having rapid expanding projectiles as well, meaning they have a high probability of either stopping in the targets or shortly after. And pistols are more convenient to carry. One of the biggest problems with having armed personnel in schools is the time it takes for assistance to arrive. There have been events where teachers and students have confronted the shooter and talked him down or stopped him. But most of these scenarios leave an unarmed offender teacher injured or even killed. Now, as I will later point out, there have also been events where the good guy has had a firearm and not even have to shoot it, just because the presence of the firearm made the shooter stop and even kept them from killing themselves, which is usually the outcome of premeditated killings, and ones that were cut shorter than the killer wanted. And this happened with no fatalities. The average response time to shootings is 3 minutes, which is quick by any standard. Even with this response time, 20 elementary students and 6 employees were murdered in the earlier mentioned Sandy Hook shooting. In a few events, a person has had a firearm nearby or on the campus and stopped the shooter with much fewer casualties than when they survived. Now, of course, we cannot just let everyone carry a firearm because that would only lead to a shootout. But in places with security guards and or trained faculty that are armed, the time it takes to successfully confront the shooter is significantly reduced. There are several events where potential mass shooters have been neutralized by people with concealed carry permits, such as the Pearl High School shooting, where the principal subdued a shooter with a .45 caliber pistol. He never had to fire a shot, but just held the potential shooter until the authorities came and the shooter was recently tried and taken to jail. It has been demonstrated that the presence of armed police officers, called school resource officers, with appropriate training, reduces the amount of violent incidents in the school. According to a report titled Police at School, published by the Taylor and Francis Group in the journal, called The Cleaning House, a journal for educational strategies of issues in